Hello everybody, and a very warm welcome to this webinar, Heat Pump Skills and Competencies Preparing for Mass Deployment. I'm Sarah Azzo, I'm the Head of Communications at the European Heat Pump Association, and this webinar is organised as part of the EU-funded Heat Pumps for All project, of which the European Heat Pump Association is a partner. Now, the project looks at the gaps and opportunities in terms of training and aimed to design a framework for heat pump skills, to increase the number of skilled workers and to replicate the project at national and EU level. And I know more people are joining us now, so welcome to everyone who's joining. And this is a very timely webinar and a timely project since, as many of you may know, 2023 is the European Year of Skills. And in the heat pump sector, this is one of the challenges that we're facing. It's one of the key barriers to the increased deployment and rollout of heat pumps. We've got new and ambitious targets. The International Energy Agency says that we need to reach 7 million installed heat pumps by 2030, up from 2 million today. And so having enough skilled workers is really one of the challenges to be overcome. So this is going to be an extremely interesting discussion this morning, and I'm very pleased we have such an expert panel of speakers to discuss this with us. So if I just go forward, a few pieces of housekeeping. So as you can see, we're in the Teams webinar setting, which means that your cameras and microphones are off, but you have a reaction button if you wish to react during some of the speeches. And you can also ask questions using the Q&A function. Now, if you do ask a question as we go, please do say who that question is addressed to. That's really helpful. And we have a section at the end where there'll be a panel discussion and Q&A, so those questions can be addressed at that point. Last but not least, this session is being recorded. The recording and the slides will be shared after the webinar. So just a brief look at the agenda. We have 2 hours in front of us. We start with the keynote speech, then we move on to presentations from our experts. And then, as I mentioned before, we've got the Q&A, the panel discussion time. So this brings me on to introduce our keynote speaker for today, Julie Beaufils, the Secretary General of Europe On. Europe On is the voice of the professionals who switch Europe on by operating electrical systems in buildings and infrastructure. These include rooftop solar panels and electric vehicle charging points. Julie is also in charge of the Skills for Climate campaign, which raises awareness on the shortages of skilled professionals. That's obviously a crucial thing to delivering the energy transition. Originally from France, Julie studied public administration at Sciences Po Paris and European affairs at King's College London. So with that, I let Sonia take over the presentation and give the floor to Julie.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and hello everybody. Nice to be invited here and to discuss with you. Maybe a more high level, not in the sense that it's any way better or anything, but a less practical and more policy focused topic to start this panel discussion and this meeting with you today. So I'd like to talk about indeed this European Year of Skills and how it must, well, in our perspective, it must lead to reinvesting in technical careers. So next slide, please. So, well, Sarah presented us, but very shortly, Europe On is a federation of national associations representing electrical contractors in 12 European countries. Our scope of activity is very varied, but it does include heat pumps. It's obviously a growing market for us, and also all topics related to integrating heat pumps with other technologies. It's a big sector made of small companies. We have 1.8 million workers in the electrical contracting sector throughout Europe. And so it raises the question of skills and even more importantly, workforce shortages. Next slide, please. So Europe On and our members are obviously welcoming this European Year of Skills. That was a decision presented by President von der Leyen at the end of last year. And we believe it's important to create a momentum. I think that we are between heat pump experts today, so it will be no secret to any of you that the topic of finding enough people to install and also obviously manufacture and sell heat pumps is an increasing challenge. So we are happy to see this positive message coming from the EU. Yes, we can create many jobs in Europe. And I really want to focus on it as a positive thing, as a desirable policy, skills as a desirable policy, not just a bottleneck. We are not naive, but we also want to highlight the opportunities, job opportunities, which are behind it. It's important that this specific commission that started in 2019 is suggesting to have 2023 as the year of skills, because they also launched the Green Deal. And now we have to think about the implementation phase. So which hands will do the work? And this is the question that we at Europe On raise in our Skills for Climate campaign, in which EHPA is a partner. And so, yeah, in the end, it's all about intertwining skills policies and climate policies. You can't reach climate ambition without having the right people to do the work, to deliver. So that's for the enthusiasm. Yes, the Commission is pinpointing an important challenge. We need skills to move forward with our plans, such as the green and digital transition. However, because there's always a however, the vision and the objectives of this new European Year of Skills remain to be seen. The content of the budget remain unclear, even though the year has already technically started. We expect mostly events and celebrations here and there across Europe, which is good because we need to raise awareness. But of course, we are calling for a more profound change. Another doubt, another concern that we have is that there's no clear priority in this European Year of Skills, no clear angle or perspective yet. And we would like it to be very much associated with the Green Deal. And so the underlying question for us is, will it be a missed opportunity to talk about technical education and careers? Because I think the tagline of my presentation should be, we need to talk about technical education and careers. I don't have figures for the heat pump market, I must say, but I do have figures about the solar power market, the solar power industry. And in a study that was conducted by the IRENA, so the International Renewable Energy Agency, they showed that in Europe, 70% of the workers involved in the solar industry are located in the segment related to installation and operation. So that's mostly technical jobs, 70% of it. And I think we can draw an analogy with heat pumps, because at the end of the day, each and every one of the heat pumps that you produce and that you sell must be carefully installed by skilled technicians. I was reading an article on the interconnection between desindustrialization in France and the negative perception of technical careers, which are very much interlinked. And I think it's interesting because at the moment, all of our governments across Europe, as well as, sorry, there's someone saying that the slides are not changing, but yeah, we're still here. It's a very long slide. Yeah, at the moment, we see that national governments and the EU are trying to create a new emphasis around industrialization, around getting back manufacturers in Europe, etc. But the other issue is that we don't have doers, we don't have technically skilled people, and it's not limited to France. It's really a concern that is raised by all of my members across Europe. So maybe just two examples. In France, there are 10 times more students applying in psychology, language, and law than in math, physics, and biology. And here I'm just talking about university, because if we then look into professional schools, vet schools, you'll find many people who ended up there because they didn't get anything better. So that says a lot about the lack of motivation and the lack of ambition for those careers. And even more worrying, I read that 70% of students who are in professional lycée are actually trained for non-technical jobs. So for example, they become a retail technician, whatever that means. So we really have to ask the right questions on delivering the green and digital transition with people who can master the technologies. And now I'll turn to my next slide, please, which is an example of an awareness campaign run by our Dutch members, Techniek Netherlands. And the campaign is titled The Makers of Tomorrow. And what they are trying to do is to demonstrate that there is pride and a sense of accomplishment in technical careers. Why am I showing this? Of course, we're not solving everything with awareness campaigns, but I really want to pinpoint that the skills challenges go way beyond those endless discussions on upskilling, reskilling. It is important, but even more importantly, we need to broaden the pool of candidates. We have to think upstream. For example, just talking about upskilling, it implies that current workers would have time to go to trainings. And the issue is that because we are a very stretched, a very pressured workforce, people don't even have time to consider upskilling. There's just so much to do. So we need actually fresh blood, if I may say so. Next slide, please. However, of course, while looking for more people to train, we also have to update our training programs. And in the electrical contracting sector, this applies in particular to embracing new technologies, well, rather new technologies for us, such as heat pumps. So our members are working on that, very often in cooperation with manufacturers and other segments of the value chain, of course. And so I wanted to give this example from Germany. Recently, a bit more than a year ago, our German members designed a completely new apprenticeship, which is called, in English, the Building System Integrator. It's a 3 or 4 year education, so quite a complete and thorough education, which will address interdisciplinarity, because electricians are increasingly joining the heat pump market, especially air-to-air, obviously, and they will have to increasingly integrate heat pumps with other technologies, PV, storage, anything, you name it. So we're trying to really address this complexity of technical skills and also to make it an attractive alternative to academic education for young people. Next slide, please. Just to mention along the way that Europon and a few partners has just started an Erasmus Plus project. So we are looking at setting up a European qualification framework for electricians so that we acquire a clearer view on the skills that are in high demand and that we can adapt trainings accordingly, and also to enable comparability of education across Europe to ease mobility. But in the end, I really stick to what I said before. We need to broaden the pool of workers. And so maybe a positive note here on the next slide. I don't want to be over-optimistic, but I believe that the kind of observations and arguments that I presented are starting to be heard. Just last week at the World Economic Forum, President von der Leyen had this very interesting statement saying that the best technology is only as good as the skilled workers who can install and operate it. I think it's a very powerful line, and I hope it will start a policy discussion, because the lack of workers and skills is not just an industry concern. What we are trying to show at Europon is that it's not just the problem of a company or the problem of an industry or even of a country. What we see is that skills and workforce shortages, especially for technical careers, are a concern all across Europe. So we have to look at solutions along with political policymakers, political authorities, because there's something a profound change which is needed to emphasize and incentivize technical education. And so I would like to turn to the next slide, which are a few policy asks that we are bringing forward. First, a few things that we are requiring from the European Union. we have to be quite limited at this level because the EU has limited competence on skills and job policies. However, we still want to push for that because they started the Green Deal, so they have to feel responsible at each step of the project. So the first ask is to focus this year of skills on making the Green Deal happen thanks to technical careers, because we can say everything and nothing under this topic of skills, but we really need to focus on where the priority lies. And so one example could be to launch an EU campaign to change mindsets across Europe on incentivizing technical education. It's a long shot, I'm aware of it, but just as much as you need time to build an infrastructure, you need time to find and train the makers of tomorrow. And we also want the Commission to put member states at the center of the reflection, to force them in a way to look at the problem along with social partners, academia, and all relevant stakeholders. Next slide, please. Another request that we have is more for the, so sorry, I'm going to be a bit of an EU geek, but looking into legislations within the Fit for 55 package, such as the EED, RED, EPBD, we want the European Union to write into EU law that member states are required to assess the gap between available and needed installation professionals. It's not just another report. We really want to confront public authorities in each country with this gap, which is set to worsen given the high climate ambitions. And so we want them to see this gap and to start addressing it now that they have a clear understanding of the problem. Next slide, please. Just to finish on the national level, of course, skills and jobs, as I said, skills and workforce policies are mostly national competences. So there are different solutions to a common problem of a lack of attractiveness of technical careers. There will be different solutions, but they all sum up into the same requirements. Then let's see how to apply them, of course, and I'm happy to discuss it. But in general, what we are asking for is more incentives for technical education, more incentives for apprenticeships, and of course, it has to be done through public and private partnerships because we need something which will make sense for the industry to really grasp the talents of tomorrow. And of course, in each of those lines, in each of those measures, there's opportunity to use EU funding. Next slide, please. I'd like to almost finish on a more positive image, because of course we talk a lot about shortages in terms of skills and jobs, and yeah, I would say even more jobs, but we also have to feel confident about what we are doing and all the effort that is made. We've seen in recent years a bit of increasing in the enrollment of apprenticeships in many of the members of Europe On, and I was really pleased to read what is the latest report of EHPA on the heat pump markets and how heat pump sales increased by 34% in 2021 compared to the previous year. I think it's a major evolution, and you can see it on this graph. But what it also means is that even though we are challenged by skills and workforce shortages, we are able to deliver. We are still delivering at a rapid pace, and we of course have to go way further, as Sarah explained in the introduction, but we're doing it, so we have to continue. And I really want to insist on that because my recent concern is that increasingly we hear national and some European policymakers saying, oh, we have skills and workforce shortages, so maybe we shouldn't invest in those technologies. We shouldn't push for a transition because we won't be able to make it. Well, we are doing it, and the policymakers' role is actually to make sure that obstacles will be lifted. So let's go into that direction. One very last slide for me, please. It's about my expectations for today, because of course I know I remained quite, policy oriented and a bit, again, high level without any presumptuous comments from myself. So I'm really eager to listen to the other presenters on the different projects that they are developing and which will be way more concrete. I just had a few expectations for today. So just maybe to start a bit to engage with the next panelists. First, the need to think upstream. As I said, it's not just about training better the existing workforce. We need to broaden the pool of workers. Upskilling has some internal barriers. For example, the lack of time of people to upskill, maybe the lack of financial means. So how do we deal with that? Reskilling that I mentioned already. Of course, we cannot overlook the complementary or so-called secondary skills, such as soft skills, system integration. How do you work between different trades, cross-skilling? I also think that interoperability is key, so that the trainings that are provided are agnostic. It's no use being trained in only using one type of heat pump. We really need to have savvy installers. And finally, a bit more broadly, supply shortages, in the sense that some of my members are, raising concerns that now they are not only facing a lack of workers, they're also facing a lack of equipment. So we need to make sure that we have both enough workers and enough products to deploy massively this green transition. And finally, if we are looking at how to deploy faster, I'd be interested to also engage on the topic of having simpler installations so that we can all improve productivity and deployment. So that's it. I just have a thank you slide. So thank you very much for your interest and eager to discuss with all of you panelists and the public.
Thank you so much, Julie. Real food for thought there, I think, and a great way to start off this webinar. So with that, I'm going to move to the next slide and introduce our next speaker, Stephen Murphy, lecturer and researcher at the Technological University of the Shannon. He mainly lectures in community energy and renewable energy, and his research topics range from heat pumps, retrofit and renewable energy to waste management and circular economy. Stephen.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you to EHPA as well for inviting me today. As it says there, I'm the leader of the HP for All project. It's a TUS project. We focus mainly on heat pumps. And I'd like to thank everyone as well today. And I'll just take control here and see, does it work? Yeah, so are you seeing the next slide?
Yes, that works. Yeah.
Perfect. That's perfect. So yeah, the HP for All project, it's a Horizon 2020 funded project, so European funding, and the main ideas of the HP for All project are to increase heat pump skills and also increase the demand for those skills. So it's looking at the EU as a whole, but it's kind of the first pilot, you could say, of this kind of approach. So I'll just quickly move on and I'll explain the project a little bit more, and then we'll go into some more important skill-based tasks and work packages that are in the project. So the HP for All project, it aims to enhance and develop and promote skills required for high quality and optimized heat pump installations. So as Julie said there in her presentation, that there are increases in heat pump installations, but we want to make sure that those heat pump installations are done to the best of the ability, I suppose, of the installer, and that the energy savings are realized with heat pumps. And this is the case for both residential and non-residential buildings. So we typically say non-residential building is anything over 20 kilowatts. That in around that, well, can be as high as you want, but that's kind of where we draw the line on it. But and as it says, it's across Europe, and it's at the forefront of the climatization sector and the energy transition as well. So it's a really important topic, and we're coming, unfortunately, to an end in the HP for All project as of February. So only 1 month left, you could say. But over the course of 30 months, we've learned quite a lot, and I suppose we'll go into what we've learned as well later on in the presentation. So the main objectives of the project were to design a heat pumps competency and excellency skills framework. So that is as of now complete, and increase the number of skilled workers through training certifications that we've helped set up in the pilot regions. Also with training ourselves and from ourselves, that be the pilot leaders, to enable end users and clients to demand high quality solutions through things like tools like heat pump benchmarking tools, through knowledge hub resources, and also through training as well. And finally, and probably one of the most important ones, I would say, is to replicate the project at national and EU levels. So as I said, it was more of a pilot, this project, to see how or what's the best way to, I suppose, attack the problem from the perspective of 3 separate pilot regions, and also to create tools that can be replicated across other national levels or other regional levels, and again, trying it EU-wide towards the end. So throughout the project, we engaged with all levels of the value chain, from manufacturer and sales to designers to installers and end users. So we wanted to make sure we have everybody involved in the project, so we get everybody's perspective, and also we can find where the knowledge gaps are for each of these. Now, again, with manufacturers, there isn't that much you could say about their knowledge gap, but I suppose the quality standards are kind of the main things that just to make sure that they're aware of and what's coming down the line, so that everybody has a fighting chance in the market. And also market access is a big thing. And one thing that I was interested when Julie pointed out was the simpler installations as well. That's another thing that manufacturers tend to kind of shy away from sometimes, is that the simplicity of an installation can make sure that I suppose a less qualified installer, or I wouldn't say less qualified, but a lower tier installer, you could say, could just install it, and then it can be commissioned by a higher tier installer. So these kind of things have to be taken into consideration as well, and especially with the mass deployment that's going to happen between now and 2030. So it's something, it's food for thought, I would say, and to kind of make sure manufacturers and sales teams are on their toes is kind of a passion of mine, I would say. Then designers and specifiers. So this can be anyone from, the competencies of designers. The design is probably one of the biggest and I suppose important stages of a heat pump installation. And specifiers too also have to be they have to be aware of the pitfalls that lie for them in the heat pump market. So again, we try to, throughout the 3 pilot regions, to engage with designers and specifiers, and to train if there was knowledge gaps, or what we would do is we would connect them with manufacturers or suppliers in that case for I suppose more specialized training. Installers and commissioners then. So again, the installer is kind of one of the biggest parts of the installation, because in most times the end user, the installer, is usually the only one that they're going to be in contact with. So they have to, if there's any problems, they'll always call the installer first, and then they'll call the designer next. So it's kind of important to make sure that the installer knows how to hand over the installation properly to the end user, and also to understand the standards that are out there at the moment, and also to be competent as well in the installation. And again, there's because of heat pumps, there's kind of a mix of 3 trades, you could say. You've got your plumber in there, you've got your electrician, and you've got your refrigeration, depending on if it's split or monoblock system. But to kind of make sure that all those the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed for that installation, and to make sure the commissioner as well is a competent individual as well, so that they can sign off properly on the installation. And then end user then was the final stakeholder what we looked at. So again, it's to make sure that they know what they're looking for, and that they know the best practice out there at the moment. It's to kind of raise their awareness and raise their knowledge, so that they can demand a higher quality heat pump installation. And this again was another big part of the HP for All project. And again, throughout 30 months, we've pretty much engaged with everyone in these 4 brackets in our region. So again, success all around, I would say. And based on that, we created a HP for All package. So this is going to be a replicable package that national or regional actors can take on themselves, and to with the help of HP for All partners, that is, can roll out in their own country. So we have a HP for All competency framework. It allows manufacturers, designers, installers to benchmark their knowledge. So it's kind of, again, it's setting the baseline, I would say, for these actors, for manufacturers, designers, installers. The HP for All Knowledge Hub then, so this was, again, a knowledge hub. So you have resources, best practice guides, case studies, technical reports, procurement guides, and webinars and others on there, so that, again, you're raising the base level of knowledge or awareness of your end users in a region. Awareness campaign materials, so this, again, there was awareness campaigns in 3 of the pilot regions, and there's also training developed for the 3 pilot regions too. So it's kind of a one-fits-all, you could say. And then the HP for All benchmarking tool is another tool that was developed to, again, increase the demand of higher quality installations from end users. And so this is the package that we've kind of put together. Again, this package doesn't just start off with, creating a knowledge hub, creating awareness campaign materials, and creating a benchmarking tool. It's we identified the needs of each of the pilot regions first. So we had market analysis first, again, talking to our 4 stakeholders, found the knowledge gaps in each of the pilot regions, and then using that information, we created the awareness campaign materials. We collated and created resources for the knowledge hub, and also we also used pilot activities such as training, field trips, so on and so forth, for raising awareness and raising competency as well in our pilot regions. So just a quick overview of what we're looking at for the HP for All project. So I can happily say that we've reached our targets for the HP for All project. The impacts based on training of installers, designers, specifiers, procurement officers, and policymakers, and so on and so forth, and obviously end users too. We have a primary energy savings from this project of 2 GWh per year, based on a calculation that I won't get into now, but and also renewable production of 1.95 GWh per year, and a reduction of 628 tons of carbon per year. So again, we've over 400 people trained. I think the latest figure we have is over 500, I think it is, and it could be more, but around that. So yeah, we've 400 people trained in 3 pilot regions. And again, each region has their own approach, because again, each region has different stakeholders, a different market maturity, and also in our case, there was 3 separate languages as well. So you had to kind of create the resources and the materials based on your stakeholders and based on your market as well. So it's this is coming into our replication plan. So we're going to take this information that we had, that each market is different. One shoe doesn't fit all. There's work has to be done to find what shoe to put on. That's what I would say. And the HP for All project will likely be helping some regions in the future. We've 3 observer regions, I might add, that are the first that will be taking on the HP for All package, and hopefully successfully rolling it out in their countries or regions. Just an overview of the partners. We have EHPA. Again, thank you for today. CTA, they're based in Andalusia. TUS, that's ourselves. IERC, based in Cork in Ireland. RENA, based in Italy. ESV, or Energy Spar, my German's terrible. ESV from Austria, and Sustainable Innovations from Spain. So again, we've worked 30 months with each other, and I think we make a good team, and a very open team, a very hard-working team as well. So it's been a pleasure for the last 30 months, I would say, and here's hoping that we'll find more funding for this project, I suppose, going forward. So today, to talk a bit more about heat pump skills and competencies. So just a bit of background first. Another main output of this project, aside from the heat pump skills and competency framework, is the notion of mutual recognition of skills across Europe. So this is kind of I would say it's a touchy subject, and also it's a difficult subject to pinpoint. So we'll go through a bit of background first, and then we'll discuss how the HP for All project aims at addressing this. So each EU member state sets out its own national system of education and training. So this is for every single EU member state. So it leads to its own professional qualifications, whether it be apprenticeships. Some people have guilds, some member states have guilds, and other member states have, I suppose, courses that people can do. And the EU has systems for recognizing these skills that enable professionals to make full use of their training so they can work in another country. And as it says there, basically, a professional qualified person from one country is qualified to work in another country. And that's kind of, there are systems in place, but again, the systems can be quite confusing at times, and there are a lot of actors involved. So it's kind of, it can be a messy process. So again, we'll discuss it more in a small bit. So if the profession is regulated in the country, for example, I give there for electricians, it's kind of beneficial that Julie was speaking about electricians and the EQF electrical or ELEC, which I believe would probably fit in quite nicely here, I would say, with the heat pump side of things. But if a profession is regulated in a country, the professional needs to be registered with the regulator of that country before starting work. So, for example, in Ireland, we have REC, they're called REC. So if you're registered, a RECI, Register of Electrical Contractors Ireland. And for anyone that's, let's say, installing lights or doing work on electrical works, they have to be a REC or a RECI certified. And this body is called Electric Safe Ireland. So again, they're regulatory bodies. Sometimes regulatory bodies can be called competency authorities, which is another thing that makes it quite difficult to figure out who to go to when you're moving to a separate country and figuring out who do I talk to in this regard. And the reason I suppose this kind of hits home for me from being from Ireland is that a lot of people from Northern Ireland, again, they're UK residents, so they come down to Ireland and work in Ireland, and in order for them to work in Ireland, they have to be registered with this regulator in order to work in Ireland. So again, they could be working 20 miles over the border from Northern Ireland, and they still have to be registered with this regulator. Well, it should be, but sometimes it does not always happen. But I would say that's more the exception rather than the rule. So it says there at the bottom there, for example, that there's, for the job title of electrician, senior electrician, or specialized electrician, there's 26 different competency authorities in 14 different countries that provide recognition of professions and qualifications. So again, like the Electric Safe Ireland in Ireland. So it's a regulator, you would say. And as we said, as I said at the start, the HPs for All skills and competency excellency framework, it's how we wanted to start off this process for mutual recognition. So we wanted to lay out the groundwork or the base level of information that we want installers to have, and designers as well. So the objectives is to gather and analysis data come directly from end users, training providers, coupled with regional, national, and European-wide best training policy frameworks. So again, from the latest draft of the HB Skills Competency Excellence Framework, we've pretty much nailed that on the head. And we found barriers and gaps in the current training offerings as well, which also leads to further policy recommendations that, again, we've also, that's another output of the project too, is a policy recommendation to explore mass deployment of heat pumps, and also to engage on how to upskill services and build upon existing resources available. So building upon the apprenticeships that are already out there, some good apprenticeships out there, and there's some good courses out there as well. It's just to kind of make sure that we build on that and we don't start from scratch, that the work is already there. It's just a matter of deploying it, I would say. So the ultimate aim is to develop a competency framework, a range of knowledge, skills, and expertise required to ensure that heat pumps are installed correctly and to the highest quality, and also to develop a network for the purpose of mutually recognizing heat pump skills. So again, that's our mutual recognition coming into play. So with the HP skills, competency, and excellency framework completed, we now turn our eyes to mutual recognition and how we can go about this in the HP for All project. So again, as I spoke before about regulated bodies and competency authorities and for regulated trades in different countries. So as I said before, it hits home for myself. The Irish UK kind of market it's kind of an interesting one to say the least. So there are people that come and go from the United Kingdom to Ireland to work and vice versa. So there is kind of an unspoken bond there, or an unspoken law between the two. Is like, oh, if you have qualifications from Ireland, it's the same as England, that kind of a way. But it's written in law somewhere, some places, but other places it's not. So like, for example, this non-regulated tradesperson, you could say, is a specialized heating, air conditioning, and plumbing contractor. So in Ireland, if you want to, let's say, if you're a specialized contractor in heating and air conditioning or plumbing, you don't require your qualifications to be checked by a regulatory body, but you do require that you have already certification in the United Kingdom. So again, if you're certified in England, you can kind of work in Ireland, but it's not really written anywhere. It's kind of just kind of an industry tick, you could say, saying like, yeah, if you have it over there, that's fine. Then you have a regulated body. So again, like an air conditioning professional. So I gave the example of the electrical contractor. Now we're looking at an air conditioning professional. So a qualified contractor based in another European Union country, or for example, the United Kingdom, they're required to provide proof of qualifications in refrigeration, and that be an apprenticeship in refrigeration or apprenticeship. Mainly it's a national certificate level of around 6 in Ireland. So I think it's around 5 in the European framework. The contractor also must be F-gas compliant. Again, all this documentation has to be checked by a regulatory body in order for this person to work in Ireland, and that's the main kind of difference between the two. So there are some trades that have this unspoken law and unspoken rule that if you've one, you've the other. But with regulated bodies or regulated trades, and also regulated trades are kind of a more there's more nuance. And I wouldn't say nuance. There can be more issues with it if it's not done correctly. For example, air conditioning with refrigerants. If refrigerants leak, that's a big problem especially for emissions. So that's why it's regulated, is because there is an issue that if there is leaks, then you have to make sure that it's a competent person and to reduce those likelihoods of leaks. So how does the HP for All want to get into this this minefield that is mutual recognition of skills? So again, we can't directly force upon competency bodies or third level educations or apprenticeships to sign a waiver saying, yeah, anyone who works in Ireland in heat pumps can work in Austria, for example. It's too complicated for that. There's too many actors involved. This is more of a start on the road to mutual recognition. That's what I would say. So the agreement is signed by the HP for All project representation and another region actor, you could say. And the document is intended to commence a dialogue with the objective of mutual recognition of skills, or heat pump skills gained in one region can be recognized in another. And I've put in there just to make sure it's not legally binding in any way. It's just a start. So it's a start on this road to mutual recognition. So again, there can be various ways to do it. It doesn't have to be your apprenticeship or people talk to our apprenticeship people. They come together and say, yeah, the syllabus is pretty similar. We can sign off on that. It can also be things like an EU-wide academy. Like we'll have all options open. That's what I would say. There's no point in focusing on one way of doing it. There has to be multiple ways of doing this. And from speaking beforehand, I think there is a couple of ways to do it. For example, like as I said, the academy kind of thing. So you have the best of the best in Europe alongside our competency and skills framework. And from that, you can create an academy and roll that out and roll out that training in other EU member states. So just to finish up now, I think I'm pretty much gone over time a small bit, but the first steps of the mutual recognition is, again, to showcase the HP skills and competency framework that we created to the interested party, and to make sure to get an understanding of it and to get their, get feedback from them as well on the skills and competency framework. The second step then is, again, as I said, the exchange between both the HP for All project and the interested party. So to get the ball rolling on mutual recognition and finding a way for installers to work in both countries, we need to find information on how other trades become mutually recognized in both regions. I gave examples of refrigeration contractors and electrical contractors in that case. Is there anything like that in your region, and how does it work? The process to become a registered heat pump professional. So again, this is kind of a based on, I suppose, the Irish perspective. So in order to become a registered heat pump professional, you have to get a registered heat pump professional can work on grant funded. So grant funded from the Irish government. So you have to be a registered heat pump professional in order to get that grant funding, or to be able to apply for that grant funding. So again, there's a process there involved as well. So it's, again, certifying bodies too. And again, we want to know if that's the same case in other countries, or is there a different system in place? Is it just heating system professionals, not just heat pump professionals, and so on and so forth? And then there's certifying bodies in both regions. So who is responsible for accrediting courses, accrediting apprenticeships, and so on? Information on heat pump training in each country. Are there courses available? Is it ingrained in the apprenticeship? Is it ingrained in, let's say, your guild works? How is heat pumps in heat pump training is in your region? Is there no heat pump training? Is there lots of it? Simple as that. And then information on subsidies, grant funding, where training is a requirement to receive funding, or maybe if there's no training requirement in the funding, maybe that's an area we can look at with you as well, as to find out if you need a training requirement of, let's say, complete course X in order to install a heat pump and so on. So that's just the kind of the exchange between the signatories of recognition. So with that, I will hand over to Sarah, and I'd like to thank everyone for listening to me for probably a little bit too long, but thanks again.
Thank you so much, Stephen. That was really interesting and insightful on the HP for All project with those concrete examples. Thank you very much. So now we move on to Małgorzata Szmurczynska, the Vice President of the Board at the Polish Organization of Heat Pump Technology Development, PORT-PC. She has a PhD in environmental management and was one of the founding members of PORT-PC. Initially elected as Secretary General, and for the last 6 years, she's been Vice President of the Board. She's also been a member of the European Heat Pump Association Board of Directors since 2021. And for 15 years, she's been working for the Polish heat pump distributor and producer, NIBA BOR, as a business unit manager. She's the author of many publications and a speaker at international conferences on heat pump technology. And she's also the proud owner of a ground source heat pump, which cooperates with a heat pump recovery ventilation system and photovoltaic system. Awesome. So the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Sarah, for introduction, and thank you for invitation for this webinar. It's really honor to be here. I took control, I think, of the presentation, so we can start. Okay, so my presentation title is The Dynamic Growth of the Polish Heat Pump Market versus Skills. I choose this title because I think everybody right now in Europe knows that Poland is one of the countries that are in the top if we speak of the big increases in heat pump market, heat pump sales, especially last year. So we can say that sales in Poland doubled in 2022, and 4 times more we sell in the last 3 years. So it's really amazing how it looks like right now if we speak about statistics and sales of heat pumps. So at this slide, you can see that the last year it was that the increase in heat pump sales in Poland was more than 120% of increase of the heat pump market. Yeah, so right now the main type of heat pumps that we are selling in Poland is air-to-water heat pumps. It's more than 180,000 of units sold last year, and circa about 8,000 of ground source heat pumps and 8,000 of domestic hot water heat pumps was sold in 2022. So as you can see, it is a huge jump if we speak about the increase of heat pump Polish market. So right now we have to put all hands on the desk to prepare the installers to such a boom for heat pumps in Poland, and to keep the quality of the installation on high level. This was the forecast, but if we see at the last year sales of heat pumps in Poland, we can see that it was more than 90,000 of units. But if you look at the increase, it was also quite big increase, more than 70% increase of the market. So we can see that our country right now, after 2022, could be really high if we speak about statistic heat pump sales in Europe. This slide shows the increase of heat pump sales in countries in Europe after the first half of 2022. So you can see how it looks in different countries, and of course Poland is here. It was estimated that the sales was increased about 136%. But after the fourth quarter of 2022, we can observe that the sales of heat pumps goes a little bit slow. So it was a slowdown in the sales in the fourth quarter. And we estimate that the sales increase not as much as it was after first half of the year, but it will be a quite big growth, because 122% is a big growth, hyper growth of heat pump market. And I think that Poland could be number one if we speak about such a big increase. Yeah, why is that? Why that happened in 2022? There are some main drivers of the hyper growth in Poland, but at the first place, I will choose the impact of the subsidies of the finance support in Poland right now, because as you can see, we have a few programs that are really attractive for the end user, for investors, especially if we speak about residential market. And we have 3 main subsidy programs. First one is retrofit tax relief. It is not subsidy or grant, but it is a deduct of expenses for retrofitting investments from the amount of income tax calculating base. So according to that, people can save some money for the retrofit activities in their houses. And the main program that we have right now is Clean Air. Clean Air subsidy is for the renovation, so you can exchange the old boiler into the new one that fulfill the eco-design requirements. But mainly people choose heat pumps, especially in last year, and I will show you at the next slide how it looks like if we speak about share of heat pumps in the subsidy applications. And the third one is My Heat program, and this program is for new construction and only for heat pumps. So people can put their applications for heat pumps for the new houses, and they can get quite a big amount of money, especially for ground source heat pumps, but also for air water or air-to-air heat pumps in new houses. And this program also has additional requirement. People has to make their houses even better isolation in better standard. So it's the standard this year, it will increase to zero energy buildings. So they have to meet the requirement less than 55 kilowatt hour per square meter per year for their buildings. So we will just help to make the new buildings as much energy saving as it's possible. And if we speak about this statistics, what I mentioned, here you have the graph that shows the share of heat pumps in applications for subsidy in the Clean Air Subsidy program. So for the retrofit houses, for renovation. And you can see that something happened, as everybody knows what happened in February. And since February, there is a big change in the share of heat pumps in applications. At the beginning, heat pumps has nearly 25% of the share, 28% of the share in the applications for subsidy. And then it goes up to 60% right now. After in the second half of the year, we have every month reached the more than 60% of share of the heat pumps in the applications for subsidy. And if you look at the yellow line, this line is for gas boilers. So at the beginning, gas boilers was the main source that was chosen in this clean air program. So for renovation of houses, it was 40% of share in the applications, and then it goes down up to 20%, and it was kept during the second half of the year. And if you look at the orange line, it is the line that is for biomass boilers. So we can observe that there is also a little decrease of the share of biomass boilers, mainly pellet boilers, in the Clean Air Subsidy program in the applications. So what happened in February? We know that there was the Russian aggression in Ukraine, and the prices start changing. The fossil fuel prices was increased for the high level, and the electricity price was still kept at a low level because it was frozen by the government. So to have the look at the situation in Poland, there is a graph that shows that in Poland in 2018, the main heating source, it was the coal boiler, and then gas boiler, and also pellet boilers, and then at the top of the pyramid, with the small amount of units installed, it was heat pumps. And then the situation was changed in 2020. We can see that the coal boilers was the decrease, The gas boilers still at the high level, and pellet boilers also make quite big increases. And of course, heat pumps start to increase, and we can speak about this big boom for heat pumps in Poland since 2020. And then in 2022, you can see that we can observe that there is a quite big decrease in fossil fuel boilers installing, and also a little bit increase in pellet boilers. But you can see that heat pumps was pushed at the top level of the pyramid. So this is the situation right now, and I hope it will be stable for next 10 years. Yeah, this was the statistics for our market. And now I want to tell you about some good practices that we will have in Poland. First of all, I want to tell you about the project of industry skills centers. It is a new project. It was implemented in September 2022 as a competition for institutes to establish such skills centers. Right now, there will be end of this competition, and we will know how many and who will manage these skill centers. And also, as a PortPC, as a Polish heat pump, Polish organization of heat pump technology development, we also will apply for the financing of such training center. And the plan for this year is at least 20 such training centers that will be created to the end of 2023, and another 100 centers to the end of 2024. So in this project, there was established 120 fields defined, and one center will be established in the region. And this training center will be created at schools, educating in occupations and vocational training center. So it should be a good training center also for the employers, for the installers, but also for students, for pupils, and for other people that are concerned in the industry. And if we speak about heat pumps, yeah, the project has some purposes, and there is a 300 millions of euro connected to this project. So there is a huge amount of money to prepare such a training centers, and there is a quite good established requirement that the industry institute or association must be in the project. So for example, for heat pumps, we as an industry association will be the project leader, plus vocational school in Krzeszowice. It's a town in Poland. Plus renewable energy center in Miękkinia. It's also a town in Poland that makes and prepare trainings for installers. So with such cooperation, I think we can prepare very good skills center for installers and other people that are in the industry. And co-financing of these training centers is 100%. So for our side, it's only VAT, so the tax to pay as our own money to put in the project. And there is also a possibility of external training, internal training, certification, so things like that. So we also think to make additional Port PC heat pump installers academy with some webinars and yeah, better and wider program. Yeah, and what are the tasks of these sectoral skills centers? First of all, making facilities available to schools, universities, employers, and educational and training purposes. Cooperation between business and education. And as I told, the industry organization must be in the project. So it is a really good prerequisite in this project that was prepared by the Ministry of Education in Poland. And of course, there should be dissemination of innovative solutions applied in the industry and supporting innovation in vocational education. So it also will support the vocational education in Poland. And analyzing the demand for professions and skills in the industry, providing practical training for young people, students and pupils, including those with disabilities. So these are the main tasks of the sectoral skills centers that was established by the Ministry of Education. And this project is also financed by the National Recovery Plan. So there is a money that can be taken for the skills for heat pumps right now. So I think it's quite good in a good moment to do it because right now in Poland we can say that we have a big amount of installers, but we can see and we can observe that the quality of the installations are going down. So we have to do everything to skill them up, so to make the qualities of the installations on the proper level. Okay, so in this BCU, these sectoral skill centers, there would be also examination and validation of the skills and the examination for industry qualifications. So I think it will be a quite good qualification and retraining and make skills up of the installers and other employers. And as I told earlier, as a Port PC, we also want to make a heat pump academy in 2023, and it will be additional activities to these skills centers. So we try to prepare right now e-learning and webinars on important heat pumps topics. To support the trainings that are right now held by manufacturers and distributors. There will be joint project with heat pumps manufacturers or distributors, so we want to also support the manufacturers and also include in the Port PC Academy. And we plan to start it in the first half of 2023. And we also will prepare many tools for installers, for employers, for workers, for manufacturers, mainly based on spreadsheets, so Excel sheets, to make some calculations of different parameters that are important in the heat pump installations. Yeah, and if we speak about this Heat Pump Academy and e-learning topics, we established few topics that are main in this program. The first one is standardization of heat pump data, how to read the energy labels, because it is very important in the industry to speak the same language, the same definitions, the same standards. So it's very important to keep the same standard data in the all leaflets and catalogs of the manufacturers and things like that. Then the second topic is, of course, heating costs. So we right now, as Sport PC and the bigger organization POBE, prepare every quarter heating cost calculators, because right now the prices of the electricity and other energy drivers really are changing. So each quarter there are many different prices of electricity and other fossil fuels, for example, drivers. So we try to keep update end user, investors, and everybody in the industry how the heat pump looks like if we compare to gas boiler or biomass boiler or coal boiler, because right now we have very high prices of this fossil fuel in Poland. And the third topic that is really important, it's acoustics of heat pumps, especially if we speak about such a big boom for air-to-water heat pumps. And of course, dimensioning of heat pumps all together with the ground source for ground source heat pumps. And the last thing, very important, hydronic system. So hydronic graphs. And we did such a guidelines for hydronic systems, part 1 and part 2. So we want to show it for the installers, and we try to push them to use these hydronic schemes that are standard, similar, and are very sure that it will work good and in properly manner. Yeah, and if we speak about this standardization of data provided by the heat pump manufacturers, it's really important topic in Poland right now, because last year there are many new brands that appeared in Poland, and there in some cases there is quite hard to find energy labels, to find product fiches for the heat pumps. So it's really important to push everybody to use the same data. So for sure we will promote heat pump key mark and EHPAQ quality schemes in Poland. And we will push everybody to use product label and energy labels, and it should be everybody should have access to the PDFs files to these parameters. So, for example, energy class, ETA-S, SCOP, yeah, in the cold and average climate zones, sound power level and heating power, and things like that. It should be all these parameters should be taken from the product label and energy label to use and to speak the same voice and with the same standards. And yeah, we want to show the differences from other heating appliances. For example, the fields of temperature of the heat pumps compared to yeah, high temperature boilers. And of course, current heating costs and total annual costs, as I told, quarterly. And we want to support and show the importance of our guidelines and standards that we established during last 10 years by the Polish heat pump organization. So this was my presentation. This is the last slide. So thank you very much one more time for invitation, and I was happy that I can show you how it was in Poland, because right now everybody is asking what is going on, what is happened, why there is a quite big boom in Poland in heat pumps, and everybody is wondering if still in next year we will have the same big increase in our market. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Gosia. Yeah, very interesting indeed to have that insight into what's happening in Poland and to be able to get some context on that. So thank you. So now we pass over to Rolf-Ivar Mytting-Hagelmann, who's the Secretary General of the Norwegian Heat Pump Association, where he's been since 2014. And there he's responsible for policy, framework conditions, consumer information and training of installers, contractors and consultants. He's active in several of EHPA's committees and is Norway's delegate in the IEA Technology Collaboration Programme and on heat pumping technologies.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I will use approximately 50 slides. Most of them are just pictures, so I will be ready within 20 minutes. So in short, I will just start with a background. The population of Norway is 5.4 million in 2022. We sold close to 160,000 heat pumps, a growth of 25%. Together with Sweden, Finland, we have the largest share of heat pumps in Europe. Fossil oil is banned in all buildings. Fossil fuel is banned for heating in all new buildings. And as Stephen said, it's similar in Norway too, that in most countries also the F-gas regulation is in only requirement for heat pump installers, unfortunately. So there are no public formal competence requirements for either those that install heat pumps or those that are planning and designing heat pump systems for larger and smaller buildings. So what I will do now I start to say what I say on lots of conferences and seminars in Norway when I talk to plumbers and all others that are considering working with heat pumps, and that is become a specialist or stay away, because the satisfied customers, they mostly have competent specialists that have been installing their heat pumps, and most of the complaints and errors we have is from generalists, like either engineers that are not skilled in planning functioning heat pump systems, or installers that don't have the right competence. And there are a definition of specialist. Unfortunately, there are lots of actors out there, not only in Norway, but all over Europe, that claim they are specialists, but they are not. So that is important discussion, like what is a specialist? If you are specialized on heat pumps, does that mean that you install heat pumps now and then, or is that actually what you do most of the time? So talking points is that I'm going to say a little bit about Norway. I'm going to present the vocational education system in Norway. I'm going to say what we do together with others on education and training. And then I'm going to present some of our training courses, and then a little bit about a new planned activities for the coming years. So short about Norway. In the southern part of Norway, we have milder climate than what we have up in the mountains and in the north. So it's not snow all over Norway all the time, as some might think. There's snow, of course, now in the mountains and the colder areas, and it can be really, really cold in some places in Norway. But we have a mild coastal climate also. So it's really big difference from areas to areas in Norway, what kind of heating demand the different buildings have. So we have heat pumps everywhere. We have them up in the north, in small villages, and all kind of buildings. We also have them in modern buildings. This is kind of a school that is like 5 years old, with solar panels and heating only by heat pumps. So I'm going to say a little bit about some success factors for heat pumps in Norway. There's a lots of different drivers for using heat pumps in Norway. prices and ban of fossil fuels, etc. But we have, together with the other Nordic countries, been quite demanding towards the manufacturers from both Europe and Asia. So we have high quality heat pumps for cold climate that is dominating our market. Many of these heat pumps are more expensive than what you find in other European countries because they have to work at really cold conditions. We have a large network of skilled installers throughout the country, and especially when it comes to air-to-air, and I will show you the statistics in a few minutes that show you that when it comes to the numbers of installations, air-to-air heat pumps are dominating in Norway. The challenges we have is especially the air-to-water and brine-to-water heat pumps. They are costly, as in the rest of Europe, and many end consumers, both in private households and in commercial buildings, they regard them as expensive, even if they are profitable. They are regarded as expensive because they look at the investment cost and not necessarily expensive for paying for energy. And even if we have a lot of skilled installers and planners all over Norway, unfortunately, we still have too many installers, planners, entrepreneurs that don't have the necessary competence. Many of them are not good at sales. They are not good at energy calculations. They don't know the right size for a heat pump, and they don't know how to design a well-functioning heat pump system. So even if several of those with lack of skills have a lot of sales, they too often have heat pump systems that doesn't work as good as they should. Of course, most heat pumps in Norway work good. If not, we wouldn't have the numbers we have. But still, there are too many complaints and too many installations with errors, and we can't have that in the future. A little explanation about the heating system in Norway. I'm not going to go into detail, but what you see in green is use of electricity. So in industrial processes, of course, we have still a lot of fossil oil and coal and gas for some industrial processes and heating, but electricity is common in many industrial processes, and heat pumps are getting more and more common in several industrial processes. And when it comes to heating in all kind of buildings, electricity is the main heating source together with electric heat pumps. And you will see the same in Sweden and Finland too. Of course, there you will see more district heating than in Norway. We also have district heating, but not as much as in those countries and in Denmark. But we differ a lot from the rest of Europe since we have a much larger share of renewable energy or the renewable electricity. Like 98% of our electricity is renewable. So electric heating is much more common in Norway compared to the rest of Europe, where gas or district heating from fossil sources are dominating for the moment. As I said, we have heat pumps in all kind of new old buildings. And I'm not going to list them all, but as you see, there's lots of different buildings where heat pumps are common. This is our sales development. I haven't included the 22 figures yet because they will be official later this week. But we have a growth of 25%. As you see in blue, that is air-to-air heat pumps. So air-to-air heat pumps are dominating. We have a much smaller market for heat pumps for hydronic systems in Norway because of building codes. Most of buildings have direct electric heating, and we don't have as much buildings with waterborne or hydronic heating systems as we have in the rest of Europe. This is something we try to change. So here you see the figures on the amount of heat pumps sold until 2021. So you see that air-to-air heat pumps are dominating. Of course, we also have air-to-water and brine-to-water, but the share are much smaller than, for instance, Sweden and Finland. They also have a lots of air-to-air heat pumps, but they are much more air-to-water and brine-to-water heat pumps also. So just to show some pictures of air-to-air heat pumps, for many of our European colleagues, it seems strange for them that we have so much air-to-air heat pumps in a cold country as Norway, but the air-to-air heat pumps that dominate in Norway are high-quality heat pumps that work down to -25, and the COP is quite good, actually down to -15 or -20. But of course, in an old, not well-insulated house, air-to-air heat pumps cannot be the only heating source. So very often, air-to-air heat pump is important heating source, but we have direct electric heating or use of wood stoves as additional heating. But in small energy efficient houses, quite often an air-to-air heat pump is the main heating source throughout the whole year, and it's only at the coldest dates that you need additional heating. But that depends on the size of the house and how well insulated this is. So here you see a common air-to-air heat pump. More and more people use them also for cooling during summer, but it's mainly bought as a heating device. In many other European countries, they are mainly used for air conditioners, but in air conditioning. But in Norway, the driving market is for heating. So you have wall hanging units, and you have floor mounted heat pumps. This is a common outdoor unit. More and more mountain cabins have them. So of course they have to work where it's lots of snow and where it's cold. And of course we also have air-to-water heat pumps in both new and old buildings. Ground source heat pumps are normally more robust in old buildings with high temperature heating systems. We have drilling or drillers all over Norway for all kind of buildings. This is for a multi-family building. This is for a single family building. This is a common technical room in an old multi-family building where it was oil burner. Now instead there's a heat pump that heats the whole multi-family building. This is from a garage where it collects exhausts heat and heat up all the tap water. And this is one of the largest multifamily house areas in Norway where they have one common energy well for all the buildings, but we have lots of energy wells all over Norway. And this is ammonia heat pump from a new energy efficient big building. So the reason why I show all these buildings is to show you that the heat pump market is quite diverse. So you have some installers that only work with small air-to-air heat pumps, and other that are skilled that work with more complex heat pumps, and some are also specialized only on natural refrigerants. And also you have the large industrial heat pumps and large heat pumps that we have in district heating. So who is doing what? Because quite often we talk only on the installers, but you have engineers that design the heating systems in larger buildings, and you have heat pump engineers that are specialized on the heat pump itself, but they might not be specialized on how to design a good hydronic or heating system. You have lots of engineers and plumbers that are designing heating systems that don't necessarily know the conditions that are needed for a good heat pump system. You have lots, unfortunately, too many plumbers that don't have sufficient training in heating systems and heat pumps, even if they are doing installations. Quite often they just get support over the phone from some of the importers, but too many of them don't have the necessary skills to do good installations. And you have refrigeration and heat pump technicians that normally specialize on larger heat pumps, refrigeration systems, freezers, and many of them, they don't work with heat pumps for households. So the market for air-to-air heat pumps, they're dominating by the installers that are electricians or that have other kind of backgrounds that have been to our or other our members' courses to learn how to install heat pumps. So those that are specialized on heat pumps, that are educated in heat pumps, they normally work with larger systems. Of course, some of them also install smaller heat pumps, but the heat pumps from smaller the market for smaller heat pumps are normally dominated by either plumbers or electricians and others that have just been doing training courses. They are not necessarily educated. So what do we have in public education in Norway? We have a vocational education system where you have the 2 first years, or this is for we have different kind of vocational education. We have for electricians and plumbers and different kind of professions, but this is for the refrigeration and cold and heat pump technicians. So, and the 2 first years is a common education for working with refrigeration, heat pumps, and ventilation, and then they get more specialized the 3rd and 4th years where they when they are being a trainee out in a company. It's also possible to have few years, only 1 year at school, and then they do rest of the education at a company with guidance. It's also possible actually to do all the education at the company, but this is the most normal way to educate themselves. And what they do, they are specialized on heat pump and refrigeration technology. So they are learned installing, how to start up and regulate and do maintenance on these heat pumps and refrigeration systems. And also we have the plumbers. They have the same education system, but they have a half a year longer apprenticeship. So they either have 2-year education, 1-year education, or 4.5 year trainee, being a trainee. So, but what is a challenge is that the education system for plumbers for the moment are not good enough for heat pumps and hydronic systems. So they are depending on doing courses and being trained after the education. And also you can, after you have become a plumber or a heat pump technician, you can go to a technical college for 2 more years. And you need some extra education to go further for an engineer degree. Or there are also, of course, lots of students that had all the kind of background that go directly to a bachelor degree or master degree in heat pump engineering. So what do we do? I will do this show it short. Since 2000, we have had different kind of training systems. We started with a general theoretical education system.
Jeg fant dette på nettet om teoretikal.
Sorry, it's Siri that's talking to me. Sorry. So we had a training system that was theoretical from 2000, and then we started with a practical course from 2004, specialized for air-to-air heat pumps. And then in 2008, 2009, we designed a heat pump course for engineers for larger heat pump systems. And then we introduced the F-gas regulations first in 2013. So we introduced our first courses in 2011. And then we have had courses for hydronic system from 2012. So we are the largest training provider for heat pumps in Norway. So lots of people go through our website where they can find our courses. I will show some of them. For the moment, we have 10 different courses and 4 new being established. So the most popular course is the F-gas regulation course, because they need, if you're working with several kind of heat pumps, you need that kind of certificate, and we are kind of strict. So you are not allowed to do our F-gas training or take the exam without having the proper formal education from before. If not, you have to do our basic air-to-air heat pump installation course. And then we have lots of other courses too, but I will just show a few of them. So we have an air-to-air heat pump course where you actually learn what you need to do when you plan and install and maintain air-to-air heat pump. So it shows here like what you learn and what kind of material you get, and you can go through this presentation later if you want to look at the slides. And we also have courses for flammable refrigerants, because we see that this the use of flammable refrigerants are growing rapidly in Norway. We are doing a lot of cooperation with others. So several actors are using our training material. Several actors are doing marketing on training courses. So they tell installers to go to our training courses or doing our training with some of the actors we cooperate with. And last year, we together with cooperating actors, we trained 1,100 persons on different kind of courses. So in short, to end up, we are working with new courses also, and a new course, heat pumps for hydronic systems, and the training that is we have. Yeah, I will show you just short. We are also working with making guidelines for different kind of buildings, and we have for some years in the former education committee that HPA had a cooperation with other countries to try to find out what kind of training courses do you have, how many days are the courses, what are the topics that are covered. And I will not use more time now, but there are challenges that there should be more mandatory certification schemes in Europe. We don't have that. So we are discussing now our training courses, how strict should it be exams due, and how can we attract more people taking our courses. And we also have big consumer websites, and we try to stress all the time that it has too many focus only on the heat pump itself, but it's at least as important that you have a good installation at that. Then you need skilled installers. Okay, thank you. I will end there.
Thank you so much, Rolf Ivar. Again, really interesting to see how things are working in Norway. Thank you. So that brings us to our final presentation of today. So very pleased to welcome František Doktor, the Senior Advisor at the Via Europa Competence Centre. He started his career in a corporate environment and later joined several industry organisations at national and European levels. He's been working on energy issues for over 20 years within the consumer industries, and the last 10 years have been dedicated to the building sector, increasing energy efficiency and the use of renewable energy sources in buildings. He's managed several EU projects aimed at developing skills and knowledge within the sector, and currently he's coordinating 2 projects aimed at delivering the European Green Deal in the building sector, Green Deal for Buildings, and I hope I'm saying this right, Bang EES, which aim to develop smart energy services combining energy efficiency measures and with demand response, with the goal of phasing out natural gas in buildings and decarbonising energy systems. Please.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I would like to first thank European Heat Pump Association for inviting me to this webinar. In my presentation today, I would like to, I should move to, yes, here we are. In my presentation today, I would like to talk about wider aspects of the mass rollout of heat pumps and the work we are carrying out to address this aspects, and also to address the relevant skills gaps. I would like to introduce the topic through the work we are doing in developing next generation smart energy services within our BANGEES projects. Yeah, I mean, it sounds strange, the name of the project, but BANGEES, as it is being something very flexible, is underlying the underlying aspect of our project, and it is to develop flexibility that could be harvested from the buildings, but not only that. In point 2, I will continue with our efforts within the Build Up Skills initiatives through which we address the skills gaps. And then continuing in point 3 with identified training programs we are developing. And at the end of the presentation, I would like to spend a few minutes on how we plan to disseminate the training and certification of acquired skills. Badges is our response to the need of progressing in electrification of the building sector, including electrification of heating and preparation of hot water, in order to phase out carbon-based fuels, including, or now most importantly, to phase out natural gas. There was a question in chat with the previous speaker that what about the ban on gas and fossil fuels in buildings? And I would say that ban on gas is coming. It is not coming, so interestingly, because of the current situation, but it is coming because of the health concerns to have gas in residential buildings. And I believe you are aware of the study that was just completed in the United States that confirmed what we knew already before, that the gas in the buildings is very dangerous to the health. And this underlined also the fact that we cannot use the current infrastructure to blend the gas with hydrogen, or not at all to use the current infrastructure to for hydrogen in buildings. And I don't think that we can really use hydrogen in buildings, but that's another story. So there is a need also to lower power use during peak hours, as what we would save on directly replacing natural gas. We would then again overspend during the peak hours when the natural gas is mainly used for running the reserve capacities. This, however, is also important for free up capacity for further electrification or for avoiding expensive electricity grid upgrades that might be triggered by further electrification of other sectors. Last but not least, there is also a need to decarbonize flexibility, because current flexibility sources are linked to technologies exploiting carbon-based energy sources. And it is fundamental for facilitating the increase of the share of renewable energy sources up to 100% in our energy mix. So we need to build a new source of flexibility in the energy systems through building flexibility, for example, in buildings that can be then harvested. I must admit that we planned our project to take part in an evolution of the systems, but due to the recent Russian aggression in Ukraine, we have been thrown into rapidly developing revolution, and we are doing our best in keeping pace with all the recent developments. So why mentioning our project? It is because heat pumps are only part of the story. It is not just to make a promotion for the project we are doing. We need to keep in mind that we need to install we need to install smart energy systems that are integrating energy efficiency with heat pumps, renewable energy sources, mainly solar, wind, energy storage, hybrid systems, electric vehicles charging, and smart orchestrate all these energy assets in the buildings using smart energy services that are based on demand response to save energy, increase energy performance, harvest flexibility from buildings, to provide flexibility to energy systems, as I already mentioned, and to replace carbon-based energies and fuels. You can do it at a single building level, as shown on the picture, or at neighborhood or district level, exploiting synergies, including effects of integrating different sectors. And here I mean sector of buildings, transport, and industry, especially SMEs. Often all these assets are already there, and they are used, but they are not integrated into smart system, so they are not achieving their full potential. This is why we are coming with our solutions. Moreover, these smart energy services are bringing consumer, or better saying now prosumer, to the energy markets. This way they can get their fair share of value that is created on the market, and lower their energy bills. And in the current situation, it is even more visible how the prosumers could benefit from getting their share of the value created on the market. It is not, in principle, not a rocket science. And it is already expected by policymakers that buildings will be able to generate and store the electricity and act as active nodes on the grid. In our consortium, operators coming from Portugal, Spain, France, Italy, Germany, Czech Republic, Slovak Republic, are providing energy services to over 10 million households in 7 countries. And this includes also the countries outside of our consortium, like Slovenia, Greece. So what we are trying to do in order to develop their business and to facilitate mass rollout, not only heat pumps, but the energy, smart energy systems. We are focused on developing new business models that are underpinning a one-stop shop approach in this sector. I think that is already known term. I will not go into details. And we are well on the way to commercialize first service package within the project. That will have potential of a mass rollout on the mentioned markets. We are also innovating the services by integrating non-energy services, for example, by monetizing non-energy benefits, because it has been proven that non-energy benefits are important motivation factor on the side of consumers to undertake energy renovation of their dwellings, and therefore, in order to facilitate the growth that is needed, we believe that non-energy services needs to be included in our service packages. The business models we are developing integrate advanced analytics that will be also tested during the project. Some of the tests will be focused on gaining insights on consumer behavior in different climate region and different natural settings. This is also very important for us because we need to see whether the consumers really want to play the role of prosumers and whether they will play along with our work and with our approach to achieve the energy goals that I was mentioning. The project has ambition to trigger primary energy savings of 440 gigawatt per year and reduction of greenhouse gases to 296,000 ton of CO2 equivalent. But to achieve all these goals, we also need experts and craftsmen equipped with the necessary skills, knowledge, and competencies. Therefore, we are very active within the Build Up Skills initiative, very well known to many of you. We are within this initiative, we are developing training programs, training trainers, developing methodologies and systems for delivering the training. In last budget cycle, we already focused our efforts on extending the training of different craftsmen, for example, electricians, to include installations of smart technologies. We supported the training of on refrigeration and cooling. But this was not really in a systematic way, and certainly it is not enough if we talk about the mass rollout of smart energy systems that are built around heat pumps. In the new cycle, therefore, we would like to implement a more systematic approach and focus on smart energy systems, decarbonization of flexibility, electrification of building, flattening the curve, etc., as I was mentioning previously. To achieve this, we involved the operators. I forgot to move the slide. To achieve this, we involved operators in an analysis. I mean, operators that are factually delivering this energy services to consumers and who are included in our consortium, but we also consulted operators outside our consortium and made analysis of the skill gaps and in designing our approach to the training. We choose a cross-trade approach, keeping in mind that members of the teams in the field should not only understand their own job, but they should also play well with others on the side to achieve the required quality of the installation. And here it is not only that the technology is properly working, but we have also other concerns that we need to cover, like protecting privacy of our clients, and we have requirements of cybersecurity which we should ensure. These programs will be oriented, so I will skip the part to describing the whole process, but for sure we will work on developing the ULOS, developing on the base of this ULOS the curricula and then content of curricula. We will also adapt the ULOS to be used for assessment of the acquired skills. And and for certification. Now I see that the time is gradually coming to an end, so I will try to speed up a little bit. You see all the programs that have been identified on the slide, and certainly they include planning the system, installing the relevant energy assets, the required smart solutions to orchestrate these energy assets, test, install system, maintain, and very important, operate them successfully and provide the requisite technical customer support. I have to stress here that we are not building the Rome from the beginning. We will use all the skills and knowledge that is already there, and we would like to play the complementary role. And part of our work is to identify how those skills that are there could be further developed into new skills, because we cannot afford to wait until the new programs come into the schools in the short term, because you saw also in the previous presentations that it takes time to first introduce the new program to the school, and then we need to wait 4 years to get this educated craftsmen and technicians on the job market. So we need to have this short-term fix when we can build on what is already there, and in long term certainly to work on the education training that is done by vocational schools, for example. We also looked at how we could quickly scale up the training activities, and in order to meet the challenge ahead. And here we looked for a robust and effective way to disseminate the training and certificate the acquired skills. So therefore, we decided that besides using the traditional forms of training like instructor-led training or e-learning, video learning, we would like to also deploy extended reality in all its forms, like virtual reality, augmented reality, or mixed reality. While as regards the virtual reality, we will use all the full reality, full virtual reality, or 360 degrees reality. It is not just chosen to have a kind of cool tool to present to attract young people, but a study by PricewaterhouseCoopers has shown that extended reality trainees are learning up to 4 times faster than classroom trainees, and that these trainees are 225% more confident to act on what they learn during the training than those who are attending on the classroom training. This is not surprising, because as another study shows that 90% of information that is transmitted to the brain is visual, and humans process images 60,000 times faster. What is also very interesting about these tools is that you can use these tools for assessment of the acquired skills, whether you do is in indirect or direct way. And if there are questions, I could give some more details. Let's go directly to my last word. And more importantly, you have a lot of opportunities what you can do with these systems, because you can have a one-on-one training or assessment, or one trainer trains and several trainees or one assessor is assessing several trainees, or several trainees assessors are training or assessing one or several trainees, and this could also be used to test maturity of the skills and knowledge across the teams, including sequences in which one team hands over the work to another. So this is all what I wanted to say. Just as a final slide is showing our preliminary calculation, where we took a very conservative calculation. What would happen if we train 40 trainers and add another 10 trainers every year, and calculating that one trainer can train 100 trainees throughout the year, which means not every month to have a group of 10 trainees. I think that's very comfortable way. And this allows us to build the teams which then can serve already very large number of household consumers, which is based on the labor productivity of the operators involved in our consortium. That gives us some information of how many clients could be reached and served by a team of needed experts, craftsmen, and technicians. Thank you very much for your attention. And if there's still some way of answering to some questions, I will be happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. We have unfortunately come to the end of our time, and I know that people will have to be leaving. I wondered if we could maybe, for those who are able to stay for one more minute, ask our panelists to switch on their cameras, and I will maybe direct a very quick fire question to all of you. I've also seen that there is a question in the Q&A asked by Stephen Howlin about heat pump requirements in different countries, but because that's not specifically on skills, I would suggest that maybe Stephen, if you can email your question to info@ehpa.org, then we can get back to you separately on that, because it's maybe a slightly different topic. So the very quick fire question to each of the panelists in turn is, if you could take 10 seconds to say, if you could highlight one key thing that can be done and by whom it needs to be done to ensure that we have enough skilled workers in the European heat pump sector, what would that be? So maybe if we go first to Julie.
Yeah, very quickly, I've said it again and again, we have to look upstream and start by finding people who can join those trainings, so really broadening the pool of workers. And this has to be done by everybody. It's a bit easy to say that, but it has to be a change of mindset. So we need policymakers and we need the industry behind that.
Thank you, Julie. How about Stephen?
Yeah. You can hear me. That's great. Yeah. I think it's a case of making sure that young people coming into the sector, to make sure that they know that there is opportunities there for the next couple of years. It's kind of security rather than security of their job. A lot of people would say that if you go into a trade, it's up and down based on the building sector, but to give them that that security of employment, that's kind of, I think that comes from government level with proposals of building upgrades and housing policies. So
thanks.
That's me and you.
Great, thank you. Gosha?
Yeah, I think we should prepare and make multi-dimensional training. So I mean trainings also managed by producers, but also by associations. by some kinds of institutes with webinars, online tools, mobile expositions, so multi-dimensional training for installers, but of course for trainers also and employers. Thank you.
Thank you. Rolf Eva?
Yeah, ideally it should be more mandatory certification schemes, which we don't have. But I think it's really important that the national associations are more involved when it comes to training, either by doing them themselves or pushing their members, pushing the commercial actors to have good training program. And I think what I've done in Germany and what we are planning to do here is to have training programs where many actors have the same exams, so different actors can actually do the same kind of training, but it's difficult for a moment where the quality of training is so different from actor to actor. So I think this has to be lifted up of all the national associations to cooperate with actors, all kind of actors, to find out how to lift up the minimum of competence among installers. And of course, then you need the trainee programs and all that also, but yeah, have more focus on training and lifting competence.
Thank you. And František?
I would say that what is important that that politicians recognize that it is not just heat pumps or the stuff to be produced, but it is also the skills to be developed, and therefore they should fund better the schools first. They should provide support to training that is complementary in the framework of the further education training. And there was mentioned the problem that these professions are not attractive that much, but we have different experience. We really managed to have a lot of people applying for apprenticeship in this area. And the public authorities just reduced the number, the capacity to 1/3. I mean, that's absurd. If the politicians work everything against get the skills really on the job market, and they don't realize yet in many countries that the energy transition is priority one, and they should then also pour the money and support behind it.
Thank you so much, everyone. Very strong and clear messages there to finish up with. So I just wanted to say a huge thanks to all the speakers for being there today, and thanks to everyone who has participated. As I said before, we'll send the recording and slides to everyone after the webinar. Please do check out the website of the HP4All project, LinkedIn and Twitter, and likewise do follow EHPA to learn more. Thank you so much, everyone. Goodbye.